We now take you live to the Central Texas Command Center in the heart of the resistance. It's Alex Jones.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are joined live with former Congressman Dr. Ron Paul, really the grandfather of the modern liberty movement here in the United States and worldwide across the planet, from Asia to Europe, from Africa to Latin America to here in North America. People look to Ron Paul as the answer to the collectivist Borg. And they are letting us announce something big today about the new TV channel they're going to be launching. I'm told that this was supposed to launch tomorrow, but they're actually going to be announcing it today. We've got him for about 15, 20 minutes, but the congressman joins us to get into foreign policy, the meltdown of the Middle East, the funding of Al-Qaeda openly. I'm going to get into the Federal Reserve and what's happening with the bonds right now, billions being lost a day. And we're also going to look at the things that Ron Paul, myself, and others have talked about for decades and that we were ridiculed for, why it's all mainstream news now. So do we get any credit? No, we get attacked even more. Dr. Paul, thanks for coming on with us.
Good to be with you again.
Wow, so much is happening. First and foremost, you told him so again on foreign policy. What's happening there?
Well, same old things, only worse. You know, the whole idea that we continue to finance our enemies and our friends, and then our friends become our enemy, and nobody knows whose side they're on. That's why the argument for a non-interventionist foreign policy is so good, because there's always this flip-flopping. We support dictators for years and years and spend billions of dollars, and then, of course, when we get tired of them or they turn on us, then we look for a new dictator. You know, this craziness in Egypt, we demand that they have an election, they elect somebody we don't like, so then we have to send the weapons to the military, and then they have a military coup. So it goes on, and right now, of course, one of the big issues is whether or not we'll get to the bottom of the truth on Benghazi. But it shouldn't take too much of intelligence to figure out that our CIA is just about every place in the world, and they were very much involved. But if we have the direct evidence that they were in Benghazi, and one of the reasons our ambassador was there, because he was sending weapons directly to a group of people that we wanted to throw over Assad in Syria. But the foolishness is that we send it to Al-Qaeda. You know, at one time they're our arch enemy. They're wanting to kill us, but then we turn around, and we've done that in Afghanistan. We've sent money to the Taliban and sort of bribed them to give us protection, and then we get our weapons through, and then they go and fight and kill each other. So I think it's ongoing. It's very foolish, and it's really a big issue in a way our country has become bankrupt too.
Well, it's almost like a snake eating its tail, because Janet Napolitano, outgoing head of Homeland Security, says 4 years ago, the new threats, gun owners, libertarians, conservatives, anti-war people, basically anybody with a political view outside of Washington orthodoxy, and that's the new threat. And then they say Al-Qaeda's not the threat. They're helping us in Libya and Syria. Then they say, we've got to shut down all the embassies. And even the New York Times today admits that basically they put out these terror alerts to distract from the NSA news. That is simply amazing. How long can this disjointed, helter-skelter narrative continue to work, or is it not working now?
Well, it's not amazing that this is the truth. It's amazing, I think the New York Times would admit it. But, you know, I think most of us, when we saw that and all the NSA was on the defense that they were closing this embassy, and they say, there were 50 attacks planned. We just saved us, saved the country from it to prove that they're snooping and all this spying on Americans does some good. But, they claim successes. They're all built on lies. And you heard the story where the testimony was that, yes, there were 54 saves that they prevented from happening. And then when they talked to the assistant NSA official. He says, "Oh no, maybe one, but I even doubt that." So it's all based on lies, and I think this is probably a benefit to us that most Americans now are becoming very, very leery of what our government tells us, and it's a terrible thing to have to go through because who wants to give up on their country? We don't want to give up on our country, but I think it's high time we gave up on a lot of our politicians and the way our government's being run.
Again, former Congressman Ron Paul joins us here today. What do you make of the head of National Intelligence, Clapper, saying to Congress, we don't gather data on Americans when it's on record they do? And then General Alexander, the head of cybersecurity in the NSA, makes the same statement and then later admits that wasn't true either. But then he went to the Black Hat conference last week and repeated the lie again. I mean, it seems like a new level of deception. I'm going to play a few of those clips in a moment, but I'm sure you saw those in the last few weeks. What do you make of this?
I try to understand it first, and I don't think it's a moral issue for them. If it becomes a moral issue, they reverse things and say they are morally responsible for taking care of you and being to protect us. They don't understand that their moral responsibility is to provide and protect our liberties, but they actually brainwash themselves into believing that they have an obligation to lie, the noble lie. You know, we're smart, people are stupid, we have to take care of them. I mean, the whole notion of welfareism is based on the fact that people won't take care of themselves, and it ends up as a monster because all
Sure.
the corporations and the banks to get the benefits. So, yes, they believe themselves that this is true, so they are lying. And the other reason I think you can expect these lies is when you have tyranny, it's based on lies. If you have truth tellers, it challenges the empire. And that is why they come down very, very hard on a whistleblower. They have to really make examples of them, even if what they have revealed has done no harm other than tell the American people. And then they turn around and they say, well, you know, we got to punish them because they've turned this information over to our enemies. Well, you know, Snowden and Manning turned the information over to the American people. So I guess there's some people in our government that think we're the enemy and not some other country.
Absolutely. I mean, if people claim they're Americans, constitutionalists, and that they support our system that's been proven to be the best one out there historically, hands down, then you know that tyrants try to spy on you in the name of your security, but it always ends up turning into an oppressive tyranny, generally by design, but it always, regardless, even with good intentions, goes bad. And then now they turn it around. We've got to violate your rights. Our responsibility, is to take your freedoms away. And how dare you try to keep us from protecting you? And then an incredibly transparent, fake terror alert. Even Governor Ridge admitted in his book a few years ago that under Bush they would issue fake terror alerts. In case listeners didn't hear this, here's Clapper and then Alexander, his counterpart, saying they don't spy on the American people. Here it is.
Could give me a yes or no answer to the question, does the NSA collect any type of data at all on millions or hundreds of millions of Americans?
No, sir.
It does not.
Not witty.
Catherine Herridge, Fox News Channel. Thanks for taking my question. Will the Utah data center hold the data of American citizens?
No.
All right, that's enough.
Part one.
Going back to Ron Paul. Doctor, I mean, this is ridiculous.
Did you watch them on TV when they were saying that? If you don't have to be an expert psychiatrist to look at them and look at their faces and their eyes. You could tell they were lying through their teeth.
It looks like when my children, they don't do it much, but I've caught them lying about stealing cookies. It looks exactly like when my daughters eat all the cookies and lie about it.
Yeah, I think that is, they knew darn well, but once again, lying for them if you can get away with it. I guess they've gone away with it for so long. Just think of many wars have been fought over lies. You know, how they maneuver us into war.
WMDs, all of it.
And so if if they can do that and lose no sleep over it, telling a little lie here and there about how much spying they're doing, they probably consider these minor lies compared to what we've been told in the past.
Absolutely. Congressman, I want to shift gears into your son because it's a big national issue. I've got to say that he just continues to impress everybody in the liberty movement, that he so deftly handles all these attacks. He has Joe Biden coming out against him in private meetings saying he's got to be dealt with. He's got Chris Christie coming out. He's got the president coming out against him, Karl Rove coming out against him. When the entire establishment is lining up against somebody, they're good. And the way he's really trying to defund the foreign bribery, the foreign aid, the way he's standing up against drones, I tell you, what is your take on them all lining up to shoot down Rand Paul?
Well, it's a pretty good indication that he's probably on the right track.
Yeah.
When all the bad guys gang up on you, but it sorts it all out because, there's a few Republicans that do it too, and a lot of Democrats. But the leadership of both parties can't stand any of us. So because they are but one party, they pretend there's a great deal of difference. But if we reveal the truth, how many in the establishment, Republican or Democrat, would even consider anything we say about giving Bradley Manning a fair trial or Snowden a fair shake? They're not going to do it. And this is, I think people are beginning to realize, because the information is getting out, a little bit differently now than it used to get out. We got 100% of our news from the three majors. That doesn't happen anymore.
I've only got a few minutes left with you. Again, former Congressman Ron Paul joins us. I want to talk about the big announcement that you're going to make here on the show. I guess a day early. We're honored. But first off, looking at the future here, as you said, there's new media, there's alternative media. The numbers show in the aggregate we're bigger than the old media, the state-run media, drudgereport.com, infowars.com, the constellation of sites that Ron Paul, who's joining us, has. I mean, overall, they've got metrics out there. We're now bigger than they are, but they can still unify and kind of regurgitate the same news, and then sometimes we even kind of get caught up in debating whatever talking point they've put out. But short-term, mid-term, long-term, what do you see in your historical crystal ball looking forward? How do you think this is going to go for the establishment? Because they are losing the people. Just last week, the Pentagon came out and admitted that they've got to stop lying to the people and said they're losing.
Yeah, and the papers are fading quickly. The Globe and Washington Post, they're the old media. There's no doubt about it. So I have two thoughts on that. One, I brag about it, compliment young people because they're attracted to it. We were able to run, very successful campaigns and organize a lot of people through the internet. At the same time, we know technology is always advancing. And I think the question boils down, will the technology advance so quickly that our government can neutralize us and know everything that we're doing with the internet and cancel us out when we make use of it? Or will we be able to get around them and be able to have our own protection about government invasion or some alternatives? Can it become internationalized? I don't know these techniques, but it's going to be technological because the government's not going to go away quietly. They will have to admit one of these days that the days of the three majors dictating everything to us are over, that the access to the internet and what we're trying to do, with our new programming, I think is a real challenge to them. But under the conditions of today, that's what we have, and we have to make the best of it.
Incredibly said, and I'm not trying to sit here and gush over what you just broke down, but that's the battlefield, and the establishment in cybersecurity admits this is a takeover. They're saying the Pentagon, the CIA will be involved in domestic psyops. They've always been, but now they're openly announcing it, and that they want to use technology to crush the public and manipulate social networking instead of the people using it to restore freedom and liberty. So there is a battle, a war going on. Do you agree that we're entering the event horizon, and that it will be the individual out there right now becoming a citizen journalist and supporting independent media who will decide the future of this fight?
Yeah, it will be, and we have to come to the understanding that it's just, if you're a reporter for the Washington Post, that you have certain protections that we don't have. Everybody has the same protection for freedom of speech and publication, and everybody is a reporter, so everybody should have those same protections built in. But there will be a lot of contests, and I'm optimistic that right now there is a galvanized youth movement that's listening to our message, and that's where I get some encouragement. So I'm hoping that I can get some people to dial in and look at my website, my new website dealing with this channel, if they, wanted to get caught up on exactly what's happening and seeing what's going to happen, the announcement tomorrow, as well as when the first program, I think I can let that go out too today because it'll come out tomorrow, and the first official program is going to be August 12th. And for people to know and get more information on this, it's very easy, ronpaulchannel.com.
Absolutely, and this won't be released till tomorrow, but you guys sent it to us early. We have your press release here, August 12th, 2013, so it will be launched, and you've already got hundreds of thousands of people that are signing up to be part of the channel. And if people will support InfoWarsNews.com, and if people will support RonPaulChannel.com, and if people will support the true new independent media and journalism, we'll be able to hire the reporters. You'll be able to hire the reporters. We'll be able to hire the filmmakers, the researchers. I mean, we did the math, Dr. Paul. In my 18 years, the amount of money I've made and put back in is $36 million that I've put in to Infowars.com and what we do. And it takes a lot of money to be able to do this, folks. You need to go be part of RonPaulChannel.com. Sir, before you go, give us in the next minute any tidbits about the channel and what's going to be on it.
Well, the first thing, in the early part of the show, we'll go over some very, very current events, sort of like what we do when I talk on your program. What's the biggest event? We'll quote something in the news, and I'll make my commentary on it. The big difference is with this media, it's not like me being interviewed on regular media where if I talk for a minute and a half, they cut me off, or like a debate, you know how they do. There's no time limits. There's no advertising.
It's unfiltered. We can have an online Ron Paul filibuster.
Yeah, this makes it makes me more comfortable because I'm not worried about how to pack into 32 seconds everything I want to say. Then you tend to want to speak quicker and this sort of thing. So it's a much more relaxed environment, and we'll have guests. We're going to have guests on the shows, and we're going to try to pick out incidents where individuals are making successes. Last weekend I was at the YAL conference, Young Americans for Liberty, something like that. It's a very successful group, another group that's joining us, and it's only 5 years old. It was the outgrowth of one of our campaigns. So those kind of things, we want to recognize people who have achieved things, and we're going to be taking calls. There's going to be, right now it's probably going to be by email. People, the listeners will be able to send questions in, and I want to have an interactive program.
You have worked so hard as a congressman, sometimes 18 hours a day on record, and you've always been extremely articulate, but I know that feeling of having 100 things you want to say and then speeding up. Now that since you've been out of Congress just a few months, when I get a chance to interview you, you sound so much more relaxed, even more focused, and even more clarifying. Are you enjoying being out of Congress?
Yes, and there is a difference because when people ask me about that, I say, at least I don't have to get on an airplane at the direction of Boehner. You tell me, well, get on the airplane, get up here and vote. And the neat thing about my channel is that we have an office here in Lake Jackson area where we put the studio, so I don't have to drive to Houston. I don't have to go anywhere, and that makes a big difference also. And
incredible.
It is more relaxing, and I have more time to read. Matter of fact, I thought I'd be so busy, and I'm having a little more time to write as well. So I feel pretty good.
Absolutely amazing. Well, I look forward to speaking to you soon once the channel launches, and I look forward to getting you back on the economy. Just briefly, we see the Federal Reserve bonds in trouble. You've been warning about that for a long time. A brief comment on that.
Well, yes, there was a statement out the other day on how many billions of dollars they lost because interest rates have crept up a little bit against their wishes. So that represents losses in the real value of those bonds. But it's not going to be the Fed literally that loses. It's the American people, because the taxpayer stands behind that, and they can just print the money. They don't care about it. They're not a business. They don't have a profit loss. But the value of their assets did go down. It just means that they can liquidate that through inflation, and they just print more money. But it isn't the Fed that loses the money. It's the people. What we need, the only answer for that is get rid of central banking. We don't need the Federal Reserve. We need sound money.
RonPaulChannel.com. Very exciting. Thank you for working so hard for human liberty. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. There goes former Congressman Ron Paul. Very exciting. And he was telling me during the break, he goes, if I have time, he wants me to be on the show with him. So very exciting to be on Ron Paul's show instead of him being on my show after 18 years. That guy's been coming on my show.